Michigan Snow Forecast Gold Standard here on Facebook and YouTube. A brief synopsis and some education and information that I think TikTok and the rest of the social media sphere needs about weather. Right? And this isn't something that was just created by the National Weather Service with all the misinformation and scare tactics or just looking for views about the recent thunderstorms in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Ohio Valley. There are different types of thunderstorm complexes, and this is stuff that has been known for a very long time, 100 years, and it has not changed or just been made up. We have different types of thunderstorms, right? Thunderstorm types, often called popcorn convection single cell thunderstorms, are small, brief, weak storms that grow and die within an hour or so. They're typically driven by heating of summer afternoon. Single cell storms may produce brief, heavy rain and lightning. Right, we see a lot of those in the summertime in Michigan and the upper Midwest. A multi cell storm is a common garden variety thunderstorm in which new updrafts from along the leading edge of a rain-cooled air, the gust front. Individual cells usually last 30 to 60 minutes, while the system as a whole may last for many hours. Multi-cell storms may produce hail, strong winds, brief tornadoes, and or lightning, right? And we get a lot of those too in the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. These are the two most familiar form of storms that you see that are much weaker than what we had last night. Then we have a squall line, which you can see in the picture right there, is a long, well-formed line of severe weather. A squall line is a group of storms arranged in a line, often accompanied by squalls or of high wind and heavy rain. Squall lines tend to pass quickly and are less prone to produce tornadoes than are supercells. They are they can be hundreds of miles long, but are typically only 10 or 20 miles wide. This is also a very common and where most of the severe weather comes from in the Great Lakes and Midwest that you'd be familiar with and that you usually see and wouldn't think anything of it. A supercell is a long-lived, greater than 1 hour, and highly organized storm feeding off an updraft, a rising current of air that is tilted and rotating. This rotating updraft, as large as 10 miles in diameter and up to 50,000 feet tall, can persist as much as 20 to 60 minutes before a tornado forms. Scientists call this rotation a mesocyclone when it is detected by Doppler radar. The tornado is very small uh, extension of this larger rotation. Most large and violent tornadoes come from supercells, and these are much more rare in the great state of Michigan and the upper Midwest, but they do happen on a seasonal basis. And this is a supercell. You can see the wall cloud out front, rain and hail off to the side, the tornado to the left of the screen, the flanking line, the overshooting top, cumulonimbus, and the anvil, right? A bow echo. This is often too in Michigan where we get severe weather, and this was sort of what we had last night. A bow echo is a radar signature of a squall line that bows out as winds fall behind the line and circulation develops on either end. A strongly bowed echo may result in high winds in the middle of the line where the storms are moving forward most quickly. Brief tornadoes may occur, but they're often weak on the leading edge of a bow echo. Often the north side of the bow echo becomes dominant over time, gradually evolving into a comma-shaped storm complex, as noticed right there in the picture from Arkansas, May 21st, 2023. And this is also a common, uh, albeit it doesn't happen every year, but it is somewhat common in the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest. Now, this is what happened last night in the Great Lakes. A mesoscale convective system, an MCS, is a collection of thunderstorms that act as a system, and MCS can spread across an entire state, as we noticed last night, more than 12 hours, and that we noticed that also last night on radar. One of these monsters might appear as a solid line, a broken line, or a cluster of cells. This all-encompassing term can include any of the following. Mesoscale complex. A particular type of MCS or MCC is a large, circular, long-lived cluster of showers and thunderstorms identified by satellite, as it was last night and as we noticed and as we've seen. It often emerges out of other storm types during the late night and early morning hours. This one happened. Continuing along here, mesoscale convective vortex, MCV, a low pressure center within an MCS that pulls wind into a circling pattern or vortex with a core only 30 to 60 miles wide, 1 to 3 miles deep. An MCV is often overlooked in standard weather analysis, but an MCV can take on a life of its own, persisting for up to 12 hours. And after its parent MCS has dissipated, the or orphaned MCV will sometimes then become the seed of the next thunderstorm outbreak. An MCV that moves into tropical waters, such as the Gulf of Mexico, can survive as the nucleus for a tropical storm or hurricane. Something else that will, the great state of Michigan or the Midwest or anywhere across the lower 48, a derecho is a very severe thunderstorm, long lived, that does produce widespread wind damage, usually is a widespread, long-lived windstorm that is associated with a band of rapidly moving showers and thunderstorms. Although a derecho can produce a destruction similar to that of tornadoes, the damage typically is directed in a direction along a relatively straight swath. As a result, the term straight-line wind damage. And we had a great derecho, I believe, in 1999 across the lower peninsula of Michigan. Straight line wind damage sometimes is used to describe derecho damage. By definition, if the wind damage swath extends more than 240 miles, 400 kilometers, and includes wind gusts of at least 58 miles an hour or 93 kilometers or greater along most of its length, then the event may be classified as a derecho. So hopefully this gives you a little understanding on education, most importantly. So the misinformation, the fear mongering on the weather. Yes, the government does manipulate the weather. They've come out and said that they do cloud seed and other things that I don't necessarily agree with. But the storms last night was nothing out of the ordinary after a big heat dome was in the central plains and you had repeated areas of low pressure and a warm front lifting north. And the lower peninsula of Michigan resided on the north and northeast side of the heat dome. You had a cold front and a surface low pressure rotate over top of the dome of high pressure and slide down to the southeast with the cold front that had the turning of winds with height. You had a northeast wind aloft, you had a southerly wind at the surface, and then you had a northwest wind on the backside of the cold front and low pressure. Perfect changing of winds with height. It produced the classic MCS storm complex last night that ended up blowing out and causing four total confirmed tornadoes and multiple 15 or 20 wind damage or more wind damage reports of wind gusts 75 to 100 miles an hour. Peace and love.